Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Lee Krager. I'm the External Affairs Officer here for the disaster in North Carolina. I'm joined today. We have several people in the room, but we have a couple of key speakers. One is our Deputy Federal Coordinating Officer, Jeremy Slinker. If you were able to join our last pen and pad we had, Jeremy went over kind of our housing issues with us, so he's here for a brief update. We also have Miss Heather Smith. Miss Smith is leading our private roads and bridges task force for the disaster. So we are recording. I'm going to let them speak, and then we're trying to save as much time as possible for your questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Slinker first.
Okay. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be back with you. As you know, it's an important partnership that we have here to do proper communications out to the North Carolinians that, need assistance in their recovery. So with us working together like this and answering questions and fielding questions that we know are being asked, we can get the right information out and, help get this recovery started. It's going to take a while, we know, and there's a lot of work left to be done, but I do want to just mention it's important that we work together to get the right message out. So with that, a couple high-level updates that may lead to questions, and if we have very specific ones, if we can't answer them today, we'll obviously always follow back up with those answers as well. But the first one I'll start out is $269 million has been approved to 139,000 households and families and individuals to help begin their recovery. $292 million have been awarded in public assistance. And remember, public assistance is local, state, and tribal governments. This is for things like emergency response, debris removal, and any public facilities that may have been damaged in the storm. And I need to also mention, to make sure we mention our nonprofits that are always helpful in disasters and stand in the gaps for us. They're also eligible applicants under certain circumstances, as well as our houses of worship and churches that stand in there and help us as well. So 292 million in public assistance has been awarded to our impacted counties. Also in this disaster, we'll continue to note that for the first 180 days, there's a 90% cost share, federal cost share, and that's important. As normal, it would be 75%. Now, we'll just talk a little bit about housing and give a couple updates on progress. And that's what I'll emphasize. We're making progress. We still have a lot to do, but there's multiple ways that we help our impacted families and survivors with housing. And we also want to start, the overall goal is to get to a safe, sanitary, and secure housing situation until your permanent housing plan or your future long-term housing plan can be reached. And there's multiple ways we do that. And we also want to start in these instances, what is the most expedited way? And we'll talk about rental assistance. Rental assistance has been, rental assistance has been awarded to 450 families in this disaster so far. We know there's others that are eligible. We're doing personal work reach outs to ensure they're aware that this is an option as well. And that is where the family goes out. They're able to locate a rental property, one that suits their family size. As anything we do in housing with FEMA is always survivor and applicant centered, where what is their needs and how do we meet that to the best of our abilities. One of those ways is that they find their own unit that meets their family size, potentially their pets or any other needs that they may have. And then with that, through rental assistance, they can be awarded funds to pay for those monthly fees and rental costs, to include their security deposit and even storage and things if they had that in the meantime. So we're strongly encouraging that, as we've talked about before. FEMA has awarded 200% of the fair market rate for rental properties. Through market research, we see some of those out there at being able to afford that cost. So we're continuing to move forward with that and encourage people to look for those properties. Now, we know that that doesn't work for everybody. That's why we have multiple ways we do this. So right after the storm, because some things aren't immediate, say like transitional sheltering assistance, TSA, that can be somewhat immediate or very fast because it's just the way someone is able to register and then go into a hotel to house them temporarily under emergency circumstances. And, there we've had over 4,900 families that are still in our transitional sheltering assistance, but we've helped more than 9,000 families altogether. And as you are aware through our media releases as well, that that has recently been extended to January the 11th. So as we're working through these housing solutions, we're also focusing on making sure those that are displaced do have somewhere safe and secure to stay till they're able to either get back in their own home or get in one of the housing solutions that FEMA offers. So kind of moving forward, the other housing option that FEMA offers is direct lease. That's another where there's an existing property unit that is available for lease. And this, instead of the survivor or the applicant leasing it or renting it themselves, this is where FEMA will lease it from the property owner and then will pay for the property direct. And then through our direct housing program, those that are eligible for the direct housing program can move into one of those units. So again, the direct lease, the contracts or a contract has been awarded. We're working through a vendor now. We're identifying properties, and our staff here at the Joint Field Office is identifying families that match up to a unit. So that's where we're at in that process now. We know in the coming days and weeks that we'll start seeing more families license into direct lease properties. And then lastly, but probably the most well-known part of FEMA housing is the FEMA units, which are temporary transportable housing units that can be manufactured housing units, or they can also be travel trailer housing units. And so currently there we have 62 total units that house 59 families currently. And that continues to grow every day. That number includes a couple like in just today. And so we're adding to that every day. It is construction and it is contracting. And that is the reason sometimes that most well-known isn't necessarily the fastest, or, we all wish it would be faster. We have to prepare lots, find utilities, and work through contracting commercial sites. Sometimes that's with owners that haven't ever done business with the federal government, and we help them through the federal contracting process as well. So, but we are moving forward. You will see a lot of units out in the field. We're in 14 different counties right now where we have hauled units. And we have 9 here in Hickory at our staging yard standing by. As those fill up, we will be dispatching others to fill those spots. So that covers the housing update. I'll be around for the remainder of the interview and answer any questions at the end. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Heather to give us an update on private roads and bridges. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give a brief overview, cover a few slides, and then get to address your questions at the end. So with the next slide. So the 3 types of available assistance for privately owned bridges are through FEMA individual assistance. That's focused on assisting individuals if their primary if the damaged road or bridge is the only route that survivors can use to reach their primary home. And then FEMA public assistance, that's available to state, local, tribal entities who have public safety responsibility, but it's limited to only the minimum work to allow for emergency service access. And then we also have voluntary agencies that are out in North Carolina conducting repairs independently, or they could potentially receive FEMA funding for materials through FEMA public assistance, or eligible PA applicants can contract directly with those voluntary agencies. Next slide. So things to remember with a privately owned road or bridge for FEMA individual assistance. Again, it must be the only access route to that homeowner, and the homeowners have to be financially responsible for maintaining that privately owned road or bridge. One other thing to keep in mind is if there is driveway damage, that's considered eligible under private roads under FEMA individual assistance. Through FEMA IA, we can provide assistance to private roads and bridge damage that lead to single families or to multifamilies, multiple homes. And if there is a multifamily home damage, if there's multiple homes, then that repair assistance is shared among those members. That requires a level of coordination between FEMA and those individuals that are responsible for repairs. The same eligibility criteria applies for private roads and bridges under FEMA IA. The applicant's identity must be valid. They must own the home that's accessed by the damaged road or bridge. It must be a primary residence. We are not able to provide assistance for secondary homes. They must be financially responsible for maintaining that road or bridge, and their HOA or insurance does not cover any of the private road or bridge damage. Another thing that we can use to help amplifying through messaging is to ensure that folks who have private road or bridge damage indicate that they have home damage when they've applied for FEMA individual assistance. So you could have 10 homes in a neighborhood or a community, and 6 of those homes have home damage and 4 of them don't have home damage, but there is a privately owned bridge that is damaged. It's really important for those 4 homeowners that do not have home damage to apply for assistance. So then that funding could be pooled together to provide assistance to make those repairs for the privately owned. If individuals have not indicated home damage, they can call the FEMA helpline or they can visit a DRC to update their application. If folks have not registered and they do have, if they're part of that community that has damage to their privately owned bridge, then they need to apply for FEMA assistance deadline. With multifamily road, can you go back one slide, Kayla? Sorry. With distribution of awards for multifamily road and bridges, it's important to note that we need a copy of their homeowners association or their covenant, as well as their insurance documentation. Each member of the community that has damage is eligible for the maximum FEMA home repair assistance. That's $42,500. And again, they just must be financially responsible to repair the roads or bridges. If a homeowner has conducted repairs, it's important to let the FEMA inspector know that repairs have been conducted and then to provide a copy of those repair receipts or contractor estimates into their FEMA application. And then just a reminder where individuals can upload documents or mail or take them to a DRC. So to date, we have, or as of yesterday, we've provided $8.5 million through FEMA individual assistance to 2,891 individuals and households. And then we also have 3,750 individuals and household registrations that have reported private road or bridge damage that we are working through their cases. On the public assistance side of things, just a reminder that this is not available to individuals and households. It's available to state, local, tribal entities who have a public safety responsibility, and it's limited to emergency service access to those affected homes. So as I mentioned, the work is limited to emergency access. So think of whether an ambulance, police, fire truck could get to those habitable and occupied residences. And then we have a limit of $40,000 per location under the public assistance disaster specific guidance. One other option is for eligible PA applicants to enter in a contract with a voluntary agency to conduct the work or potentially provide materials that can be reimbursed for those voluntary agency members to conduct the work. LDR and MDS wanted to get the word out of the great work that they're doing to repair bridges. So just wanted to pass this on as a voluntary agency option for individuals. And then the last slide has all of the FEMA available resources on FEMA.gov. And with that, I'll turn it back to Lee.
And I believe we're ready to take questions. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll unmute your mic and allow you to ask questions. And we aren't seeing any questions coming through, so I'm double checking if anyone has a question online to raise your hand. Okay, we don't have any questions, so we thank everyone for joining us today.
I'm
Oh.
sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Quite all right. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jose. I'm with a reporter with BPR. I had 3 questions actually, if that's all right. Sorry, got them right here.
Go ahead, Jose.
The first question I have for you is, how many transportable temporary housing units have been requested in North Carolina?
So we currently set just under 500 households that are still potentially may need to be housed that are eligible for direct housing. Because we have those different areas, we talk to each case each case and household individually. So we don't have necessarily the request because sometimes we'll have a direct lease property on this date available, or you can have a housing unit today that we have ready for occupancy. So we don't have an exact number that's been requested. The numbers I gave is what we currently have out in the field and the ones that are licensed in, and we're ready to fill additional pads and private sites as they are requested. And I will add, we have recently contracted for additional commercial parks that has added additional capacity to our pad availability.
And the second question I have, there's been a lot of talk from politicians saying an executive order from the White House could override the need to follow local zoning guidelines regarding flood zones. Is that true? And or could someone speak to that?
Okay. Well, at this time, we've not had an executive order or had anything official come down. I can just tell you it is in daily discussions here. We're evaluating each site as a case-by-case basis to see what our opportunities are and how we could best help those folks that need some housing in those areas. And, and that will continue, and probably in the near future, there'll be more updates.
Thank you for that. And then just one more, so sorry. Many local governments here have changed their zoning to allow temporary housing units. How much does that help FEMA deliver those units?
Well, it does help if they allow us to move a little quicker as we find alternate means and methods, I think is the proper word here in North Carolina. As far as building codes go, in FEMA, it's variances. If we run into issues that we can't do a normal install per manufacturer guidance, then we have some alternate means and methods or variances that we can do to quickly install and make that unit ready for occupancy. So it's helpful.
Thank you all so much.
All right, the next question will come from Courtney Davis.
Hello, Courtney Davis here with Spectrum News. 2 questions for you guys. How fast can families get money dispersed when they put in the requests for a private road to be completed? Right now, is that like, a week-long process? How long does that usually take? Does someone have to go out and assess the damage there before they can get that money?
So it depends on if it's a single family or multifamily. So if we're looking at individuals with their multiple families, we need to make sure that all the inspections have been completed And once the inspections are completed, that the insurance, homeowners association, covenant information is uploaded, and a FEMA caseworker will talk with each of those individuals. So I can't give you a specific time, but the survivors that I've been talking directly to, I've been saying 30 to 45 days just to do that extra level of coordination with all the families.
And then the second question for you all is, with some of the delivery and, disbursement of some of the FEMA housing, how much has that been affected because of these mountain roads and the fact that people may not have been able to get them put onto their land or their property because of the fact that there is a private road? Is there anything to, do to speed that up so that they can get those roads fixed to be able to get temporary housing put onto their land?
Okay. Being honest, we've not ran into this situation yet. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but we haven't run into any individual case where the absence of a private road or bridge was preventing us from placing a unit. So we'll definitely good point and something to look out for, but we've not encountered that at this time.
Hi, this is from Jewel Hubbard with the Wilkes Patriot Journal. He asks, how have threats to FEMA workers eased? I spoke to him earlier and he was in reference to some incidents that may have occurred earlier in the disaster.
Okay. Thanks for the question. And yes, they've eased. We still work through a few issues occasionally, but I know, that's kind of why I go back to the beginning where we develop a good partnership of transparency and working with each other to give out good, accurate information. And I think that is, a good contributor to that issue easing up a little bit. Thank you.
There's a question from Mariel Williams. She asks, there was a rumor on social media that FEMA staffers were avoiding driveways with Trump campaign signs. Have there been any credible reports of this type of discrimination?
Here in North Carolina, we have not had any indication or any reports that that has occurred. We're aware that that rumor was out there. And so we have communicated and also done some training to ensure everyone understands how we apply our assistance across the board and within our core values here at FEMA. So, but at this time, we have nothing that indicates that is an issue here in North Carolina.
Are there any additional questions? We're not seeing any hands raised, but you can put your questions into the chat.
Okay, we thank everyone for joining. If you need any other follow-ups or spelling of names, please let us know. We'll get that out to you and even a copy of Ms. Smith's presentation if you need it. So thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.